we interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Warning. Room 1215 is a place where different opinions are often expressed and one may find offensive. However, some opinions may be strongly one-sided and we do not intend to offend or hurt anyone's feelings. No matter the race, sexual orientation, gender, or creed. Period.
Viewers' discretion advised, shorty.
Welcome back. Hello, roomies. Welcome back to Room 1215. This is your girl, Tia Money. Guess what? I am back. Today is just me. You're not going to see Jarrell because Jarrell is behind the camera. He's behind the screens. But as requested, you guys have wanted me to do the political one. You guys wanted me to do the politics podcast. And then I have been promising you guys that I was going to do one. But in a wake of everything, all things that's been going on, I kind of was like, you know what? I am burnt out with all the politics, so I'm through with it. But like I said always in my podcast, I shall proceed to give you guys what y'all need. So, coming to my podcast, Room 1215, I do have a very special guest for you guys. I have a very special guest. Unfortunately, my guest doesn't want to be on camera, but that is fine because we still gonna roll with it. And he is none other than my father. Say hi, Dad.
What's up?
So thank you, and I want to say thank you for joining Room 1215. Without you, we have no show. So it's an honor and it's a privilege to interview you on today. So how you feel?
I'm glad you have me on this podcast. I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while, and I'm glad you got me instead of your mother. Mm-hmm. But it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise. So let's jump right into it. So today we're going to be talking about political. So let me ask you this. How old were you when you first was introduced into politics? Normally, I can remember about third and fourth grade when we learned about governments, when we learned about civics. So how old were you when you first were like introduced to, president and who is the president?
I think it was in the sixth grade. Sixth grade? Yeah, believe it or not, sixth grade. So what we think about what year that had to be? Had to be in the 70s because I remember Jimmy Carter was the president.
Okay.
Jimmy Carter was the president, and we had like a mock ballot, like a mock
mock trial, mock
ballot and stuff. And we were voting in the classroom, and I think it was Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
And I think Walter Mondale. Man, that's going way back.
And I remember the only person I know is I know two. Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter, like Dad. If you remember that, like you sure it's the 70s?
It's in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
It's in the 70s. And I remember Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. I don't know, but that was our first introduction to Democrat and Republican. And I really didn't too much care. Yeah. But I remember, Democrat. But I remember Jimmy Carter as being the president, and we had hostages in Iran. Mm-hmm. And one of the hostages, I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One of the hostages' name was Kevin Harmonic. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to get the hostages out and everything. And
okay, I don't mean to stop you, but is that the same, thing where George McCain, the late George McCain? I know they said he was a prisoner of war.
Nah,
okay.
That's George McCain. McCain had to be like in the early 70s, late 60s.
Okay.
But this was like Iran.
Okay.
The fall of Iran, the Shah and everything, and the embassy was taken over.
Okay.
And that's when later on, I think it was Ayatollah Khomeini, the first quote unquote Muslim caliph, whatever you want to call him. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the first introduction of all this stuff in the Middle East. But that's the first time I was ever introduced to politics.
Now let me ask you this: growing up in a household with your mother, did she ever talk about politics? Did she ever tell you?
No.
Oh wow.
No.
She never talked about politics.
Because
most black families, while growing up, they tell them, "Hey, you vote Democrat, and that's all you vote."
But one thing I could remember in our household, man, we were so poor, man. No, politics was nothing. Politics was the last thing on your mind when you poor.
I mean, that's
in the 70s,
yeah.
poverty the poverty was the last thing on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
You just know you poor. Mm-hmm. You know you're going to get that government cheese. Mm-hmm. You just know, yes, you just living.
Okay.
You just know you just living.
Okay.
So really politics and stuff was a big part until I joined the Navy, really.
Oh, wow.
And that was later on, and I joined the Navy in '84.
Okay, so dig deeper into that. When you joined the Navy, is that the point in your life where you was like, you know what, I choose my party, I choose my political party?
Yeah, basically it was like really, because military has always been strong Republican.
Okay.
And we was kind of like indoctrinated when joining the military. Hey, listen, you're gonna vote Republican because of the benefits, because of every quarter you're gonna get a 2% raise or whatever, and it's kind of like got you indoctrinated in there. And it's still at time you still don't know Republican and Democrat, and then even independent, but you know that, hey, listen, when the first of the month and the second paycheck of the month, you're gonna vote Republican.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna look at that paycheck and say, well, shoot, they strong military, and then you also got the chain of command. I remember, and this in the military in the '80s, I think Daddy Bush then.
Yeah, Daddy Bush.
Daddy Bush then, yeah. And so, and still at that time, I really wasn't really, into the politics things. Mm-hmm. But you was just kind of like indoctrinated. But when I got out of the military, age of 22, had a very interesting conversation. Cause this time I'm 22 years old, and I'm out, and I noticed when I come back to Selma, having an interesting conversation with my grandmother.
Okay.
And there's one during election time, the governor of Alabama, the segregationist, what was his name?
George Wallace.
There you go, George Wallace. And I just now, and this like in the late 80s now, 88, 89, and I'm coming to now this consciousness of blackness.
Okay, and that was a very woke age for black people.
Yeah.
Consciousness of black. Yeah.
So I'm coming to this consciousness, and I knew that in the 60s, Wallace was this dude to say, hey, guess what? Ain't no black people coming to this in this school.
University of Alabama.
Yeah, and I remember asking my grandmama, and they grew now. You talking about my grandmama? They grew up in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Grandmama, y'all gonna vote for this guy for governor? That was and he was a Democrat. And I was like,
Democrat.
He was a Democrat. Uncle was a Democrat. Okay. Grandmama was a Democrat. Mama was a Democrat. Everybody my aunties was a Democrat. Everybody Democrat. And I was coming in this consciousness with, blackness, and got a hold of Malcolm X, and got a hold of Stokely Carmichael, all this stuff in the 90s. In the late 80s and stuff. Like, man, this ain't right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a Republican, really, from the viewpoint, consciousness and my ideas and views. But I just knew something was up with the Democrat thing.
Yeah.
Like being, like I said, in the military, you were told to do that, and I just did it because they had the money. But as far as my convictions and everything, I didn't sit well with vote for this guy who was segregationist in the 60s. And when it's in you to do, to be like that, you don't change overnight. Even though the dude he was running for president, got shot and everything, I don't know if that changed it, but black folks in the state of Alabama voted for this man.
Wow.
For governor.
And did he win?
He won.
Oh.
He won a couple terms. I think he almost 3. I might be wrong. 2 or 3 terms.
That makes so much sense. That's why we see a lot of George C. Wallace schools in Alabama, because he was governor. Okay, I learned something today.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day, you guys. Don't forget that.
Yeah, he was a segregationist.
So much
he was. Ain't no black folks coming to this because he was a segregationist. And they had in the Southern Democrats, they coined them Dixiecrats. Dixiecrats. And I learned that from reading the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Okay.
And that's how I learned about, that. So, like at that time, I still was, really actively voting in municipal elections once I got out. But later on, when I started having children.
Okay.
When I started having children and rearing a family and then started working and stuff, and I realized all these social programs, man, look, all these taxes come out my check all the time, all these taxes and stuff, man, all this stuff, what is FICA, what is this? And I really started then really delving into, these political parties. What benefit me family-wise and what's going to benefit me as being a regular person, a 9-to-5 kind of person.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
As your age today, and I'm not going to say the age because it's prehistoric.
Go ahead,
Oh,
baby.
God.
Go ahead.
I'm having too much fun. At your age today, what political party do you identify with? Do you identify as a Republican? Do you identify as a Democrat? Or you identify as a independent?
I'm going to break it down to you.
Okay.
I'm a black man that is an independent conservative.
Oh, okay. So the viewers, I know they're gonna want to know what is an independent conservative?
Independent, my views, really most of my worldview of the world is biblically based. I don't adhere to any particular party because at once all these parties were, all
cahoots all together.
All the cahoots,
We know.
So being independent gives me opportunity. Whatever party is going to best suit my interests, my viewpoint. Conservative is my worldview. Strong family. First of all, God in family. And because one thing I realize and understand, once the family goes, that is the basis of society.
Yeah.
Strong families build strong communities.
Yeah.
And what we see right now is the families is struggling, and we see our communities going to hell.
I mean, that's true. I agree with everything that you were saying because, like I said, productive kids leads to a productive society. Destructive kids leads to a destructive society. So that's always my motto. I quote that a lot. So let's just gear it up. Just go ahead and hit on gas on this point. Okay, so if you was to see a young black man across the street or come, what would be your advice you would give to him looking back on your life?
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard. And I'm glad you said that. Over the last couple months, I've been working with the on my job with all this COVID thing. I've been screening customers coming into my building. And I every now and then I run across young men. I can remember when I was 18, 19 years old. Now I'm from a different era. When I was 18, 19 years old, my elders were my elders. And I respected them. And I was the kind of young man, if you can give me some kind of knowledge or wisdom, I cherish that. Some of these young brothers, they're not so respectful.
You can tell it.
A young man came in one time and he wanted to go in the cafeteria. Young man, you can't go in. I spoke to him nice. I spoke to him respectful. I spoke with him with love. And I said, and this is the reason why, because all this COVID, it's so much restrictions. What he said, well, I can't go in the cafeteria to get no drink. Let me use the bathroom. So I dropped my guard. I said, okay, I dropped my guard. So it's a bathroom, but most facilities or whatever, they're not going to even let you go in the bathroom.
Restrooms are closed.
So I'm showing him love. I'm showing him love.
He's a black brother.
He's a black man. He's a black young brother.
I follow you on this.
So I let him in. He used the bathroom. And then he just bystepped the bathroom and go in the cafeteria. And the way I am, I said, well, I have to talk to this young brother.
Yeah.
Because I trusted you to do the right thing.
Oh, yeah.
So when he come out, and I said, listen, young man, I know you got your snacks down and everything, but can I talk? Give me an audience for a minute. Let me talk to you for a minute. and I say, man, I'm doing my job. Our policy said that we can't have an allowance, but I broke policy.
Just to let you use the
Use the restroom. Okay. Couldn't you just go use the restroom and then go away? Now my job could be on the line and blah 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 whatever, And the young man said, and I said, if somebody want to say something, I could get in trouble. I would look. Young man, he basically just brutally just told the truth. It's your fault that you let me in. It's your fault. It's your fault that you let me in. You shouldn't have let me in. But I saw a young black man.
Yeah.
I saw me.
Yeah. And
I was trusting. See, we got to get beyond that. You got to be,
So do you think? See, and that's the problem with the black community. Forgive me if the conversation is steering one way.
It's political. It's still political now.
We're gonna bring it back in there.
Yeah.
That is one of the problems with the whole black community. Black community, we don't feel like we can trust our own.
There you go.
White people, we may not like you, but we feel like at the end of the day, you got us. We can trust you. The black community, we can't trust our own.
And the thing was, I'm 40 years older than this guy. It was the respect. Now flip forward in the 80s, if I went to another guy, an elder, and the elder said, son, you can do this, but you don't do this. I'm going to do actually what that elder tell me to do. And keep it moving. We don't have that.
Now, great thing you point that out. Let me ask you this. Just by that young guy and his perspective and his mind, and just by him saying that, you already know he's not going to go pretty far in life.
There you go. Yeah.
If he's already saying, it's your fault, it's not mine.
And that's what I was told the brother that was next to me.
Playing the blame game.
I was saying, you see that young man? He got death on him.
Yeah, he's not going to go.
That's what I said to him. I hate it.
He ain't go too far in life if he's already said, hey, it's your fault.
That's what he said to me.
No initiative or anything. Going back, you meet a young man like that. Like I said, he's a product of one of those disruptive kids leads to a disruptive society.
There you go.
So going back to that, and do you think he was a product of a single parent home?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what I said.
It's like a no-brainer.
No respect for authority.
No respect for. So his father leaving him. Well, maybe his father left and his mama had to raise him. Do you think? Could you say the fault of him being that way is from society? Do you think society is to blame for that child, for that young black male being that way?
No, society not the problem.
So you don't think society is the problem? No.
At the end of the day, like I said, it's families.
Families.
Society society is always going to be society. Culture is going to always be culture. But it's families. It's that father and that mother and that children. Society don't owe you nothing.
I mean, that is true. Society don't owe you.
But we can see the fall of this structure because of the family. And like I said, once the family goes, so yeah, when I'm not gonna didn't want to stereotype that young man, but the moment I had conversation with him, whatever, he couldn't look me in my face. He was twitching. He was upset. So let me know right then.
He don't have control of his emotions.
He don't have control.
He can't listen to no one.
And maybe never had no discipline. So when you have that home structure, yeah, dad gonna put some on your butt.
Yeah.
Ain't no time out. You getting the belt. And I'm a firm believer in the rod of correction. Because guess what? If you're not getting the rod of correction, there's a place the world has for you. It's called the correctional facility.
Yeah, and they're going to get you.
They're going to get you.
Right on now.
They're going to get you. So just looking at that right there, I was just like, that young man ain't going to go no far.
And you know what? That's why I think a lot of people in the black community always say, well, so-and-so, he's so successful. Why he don't come back and help other successful black men? I guess they don't want to waste it. I don't want to say. It's
sad. Yeah.
It's sad, but they don't want to waste their time on people they know they're not gonna get nothing in return.
Yeah. And it could be that. It could be that. But at the end of the day, if that brother would have came back or whatever, guess what? I would have loved on him. If the thing would happen again or whatever, not like that type of situation. But if he would have came back, I would have had, thoughts about, hey, should I do this? But he was sincere or whatever, I would have helped him. I would have sincerely helped him.
Okay, so another moving right along. Let me just get your opinion on this. Like I said,
Go ahead, go ahead, Tia.
Trump, I call it Trump country. I call it Trumpsters. Trumpsters. I call it like
Trump. 45.
If you want to know my opinion, my political views, like I said, I'm not a Democrat, nor I'm not a Republican. I'm a realist.
Me too.
I'm a realist.
I'm a realist, Tia.
That's what I say. I'm not into the political parties. Because I know you've been voting for a very long time, but I'm just 26, and I can truly say I started voting at 18, and every time I vote, I don't see nothing change.
You know what?
I don't see nothing change, so I'm like, what's the purpose of voting if I don't see nothing change?
I used to have that worldview when I was like that view when I started voting. Like you got.
Yeah, like what's the purpose of it? Like, why do we vote if you guys gonna do what y'all want to do anyway? Here's a word from today's sponsor. Today's video was sponsored by Stevenson, supporting bright minds and bright futures everywhere.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and follow Room 1215 Podcast.